and welcome to Learn with Sawgrass, the Wednesday edition. We are here every Tuesday afternoon live on YouTube at 3 p.m. Eastern and then again at 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday mornings. Don't check your clocks. I know we're a little late this morning, so I do apologize. I was in a very important meeting that ran over, and so we're starting a little late. But we still have everything to do, and for those of you who hung out in the live and waited on us, thank you very much. So we're very glad to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us, because I think this is kind of an important one. And this is something that's kind of been something that I've pushed for a while, so I'm really glad to talk about it. But first, let's talk about who I am. I am Rhonda. I am the Education Manager here at Sawgrass. And we do these sessions, like I said, every Tuesday afternoon and every Wednesday morning, just to give you some more information about your Sawgrass printers, the Sawgrass software, and then everything else we have. And hopefully we give you some inspiration and some business tips as well. And so we do try to work all of that in. So thank you so much for being with us. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping, this is our last session of the week. We do have one this Friday. We will have a podcast dropping. That is with Judith from Luna Lee, and she's going to talk all about preparing for Christmas holiday selling. And so we're going to have that drop this Friday. Next week, next Tuesday, if everything goes according to plan, we will have a special guest here in the office. Lori Donovan will be joining me on the workshop. And then next Wednesday, we're going to get into some text-based designs. Tuesday, we're going to talk about tech, because we're going to do some more of the combining of the different crafting technologies to do projects. And like I said, Laura will be joining me for that. We do have a great podcast dropping next week as well. And that is going to be with one of our dealers, Rest of World with Longport. So Longport is going to be joining me for that podcast. Again, just so you know where to find our podcasts, you are going to see them on Apple Music, Spotify Music, and Amazon Music as well. And the title of that podcast is Ink Differently when you search for it. And so with all of that being said, one last piece of housekeeping. Rhodes is with me today. He will be answering any questions in the chat. And so if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please just put them in there and we'll be glad to take care of you. All right, so I said that this was something that to me is very important and is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's really back to what we talked about yesterday. So if you haven't seen the workshop from yesterday, it is going to be in Learn with Sawgrass on our YouTube channel. And it's all about extending the life of your printer. So those things you can do to make sure that your printer works best for you over the longest period of time. And today is going to delve more into that, and it's around this this subject of maintenance. So normally, typically, we print to the printer, we continue to print to the printer, and really don't worry about any part of it until something doesn't work. And that's where the troubleshooting comes in. So that's one way to do it, but a better way is to kind of get ahead of what you need to do with your printer, what can help your printer. So that's why I say there are some basic maintenance steps that you can take that are going to help prolong the life of your printer. And just keep it working so that you don't have to. I'd much rather you be able to, on a random Tuesday, be able to go in and check something on your printer and correct something that may be starting to become a problem than to be in a large job and your printer go down. I have told you I do need to get this on the schedule, but I did a large production job recently, and that happened to me. And all of a sudden something was not right, and I'm having to troubleshoot. Is it the software? Is it the printer? Is it something with the file? What's going on? And I know how stressful that is. I basically lost a day of production that I had set aside for production because of it. So that's why this is so important to me. It's something that I know very well. I want you to be able to check a couple of things in your printer ever so often and know that your printer's running correctly. So let's talk about those maintenance steps. So the first thing, and we kind of went into this yesterday, is if you are not printing often, you should be doing a nozzle check. Once a week or so, just to keep some ink flowing through the printer. Now, it could tell you to just randomly do a head clean. Why do I suggest doing the nozzle check? Because there's actual paper running through the printer when you do this. So I think it's a little bit better use. Also, it's more of a diagnostic. So I'm not pushing as much ink as the head clean through to do the nozzle check. So that's where we're going to start, actually. So, Rose, you don't have to worry about seeing me just as long as they can see my hands. All right. So you can do this in the software. So this is in the Sawgrass Print utility as well. I'm going to run it here through the actual printer just to show you that method. I'm going to go to menu. I'm going to go down to printer features. I'm going to go to list test print, and then I am going to go to nozzle check. Go ahead and print that out. Now I do have what I call typing paper, what most people would call copy paper, in the printer. This is a VersaFlex printer. You will notice that on mine, is it?
You can show it to the regular camera if you want to.
Okay.
It might be easier for them to see.
So you're going to see that the black is empty. That's because that is the expander. So that is empty, as it should be. I will say, and this is, I'm just checking it before I show it to you. I will say this, and this is something that I have said a few times. A few people have heard me say this. I haven't publicly said this. This isn't anything that we have in writing as of yet. But if you do have a VersaFlex printer and you do see ink in this area, don't panic. This again is a good reason to do maintenance. What that means is that the tip of the head, those nozzles for the expander, have picked up a little bit of ink from the wiper. Now, I know wiper doesn't make any sense yet. I'm going to show you where that is in just a second. But basically some other color or sort of some combination of color is on the tip of the nozzle, and that's what you're seeing in this area. If that is happening, if you are seeing it, don't panic. One head clean will fix that. But you do, if you see any color in here, in the black, what is traditionally the black channel, when you have expander, go ahead and do a head clean for me, just to get any of that off. And we'll talk more about that head clean in a second. Now, as far as the nozzle check, this is a perfect nozzle check. You are seeing roughly the same number of squares for each color. There are no breaks, so there are no missing areas within or sections that are missing. Any of that is what we would call a bad nozzle check. Thank you, Rose. Now, if you get a bad nozzle check, what do? Well, the first step is going to be a head clean. So whether we're talking maintenance, whether we're talking troubleshooting, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to do a head clean. Again, you can do the head clean in the software, but we're going to go to menu. We are going to go down to printer features. We are going to list test print. And then we are going to do a head clean. Now, if my breaks and my lines are in the black or the cyan, I am going to clean head 1. If they are in the magenta or the yellow, I'm going to clean head 2. And then I'm just going to select it, and then I'd go ahead and hit OK to start that head cleaning. Now, my general rule is I do 2 head cleans before I do another nozzle check. So I'm going to do 2 head cleans, I'm going to do a nozzle check. If there is still an issue, I'm probably maybe going to do 1 or 2 more of the head cleans if I'm still having issues. And honestly, normally I stop at 2. If there's still a lot of breaks and misses, I probably would do 1 more if I would look like I was close. But then that's where we're going to run to the head flushes. Now, you saw the head flush right underneath. Let's talk about the difference between a head clean and a head flush. So I kind of define this as a vacuum and a carpet cleaner. So a vacuum is going to run over the surface and pick up anything that is on the surface that you can see. That is typically going to be what happens with a head clean. It is cleaning those tips of those nozzles, pushing a little bit of ink through, and just doing a basic clean of what's on the surface. If you've ever looked at your printer, and let's see if we can see them rows. Behind the head, and I'm going to peek over, behind the head there are these white buttons, and we'll see them in a little bit later on. Those are air releases, so that would, when depressed, is actually pushing some air through the head. Now, why this is important is it makes the ink circulate further. So when we are doing a head flush, it is actually circulating the ink through the actual head of the printer, and it's getting deeper into all those crevices in those areas. So again, carpet cleaner. Carpet cleaner is getting down into the actual fibers. Head flush is getting into the actual head. So we're always going to start with a head clean. Most of the issues are going to be more surface, but if it is needed, that head flush is going to get deeper into the areas and be able to look at that a lot more, clean everything out, and get that all the way it needs to be. So that's kind of your differences between a head clean and a head flush. Now, head flushes. I tell you, and have always told you, if the head cleans don't clear the issue, that's when you go over to our support team. Now, generally in maintenance, you're ahead of the game. You're catching this before it's technically an issue. So you don't have to worry a lot about this. This is very seldom. This is more a true troubleshooting situation. But before I go to head flushes, I usually would get the support team involved just so they know what's going on. But you can do up to 5 head flushes. 5 head flushes is going to push all of the ink through the head. Now, head flushes do use more ink. That's one of the reasons I tell you to go ahead and get support involved before you do that process. But that's where we're going to stop for now. But one of the maintenance steps that I suggest you take, I'm saying usually do this about once per month. And nozzle checks you probably can do every 2 weeks, especially, well, either way, if you're printing a lot or not printing a lot. Nozzle checks probably every 2 weeks. The next few steps are things that we're going to do probably more once per month. So let's look at those. All right. So inside your printer, just to go over a couple of things real fast, and again, just show the printer. I'm good. You don't have to show me. This is your head. So this is your print head. Your print head is currently sitting on your capping station. So this is where your head goes to rest. Is it rests right there on that capping station. You can see it here, but this white piece is what I'm referring to as the wiper blade. So you see the little white piece with the little piece of metal. You're going to see it better in just a few minutes. But that is that kind of like the head's going to touch that. It's going to wipe anything off. That's what's called a wiper blade. But that is there. Now, this is your feed belt. There are 2 pieces of guides that help guide the paper through on either side. This is the one that's more problematic. It is the exit guide. The exit guide we will talk about in just a few minutes. It's more of a troubleshooting thing, but I'll bring it up just so you know. But that is the exit guide. This one with the metal rod, we did actually change this metal rod between the 400 and the 800 and the 500 and the 1000 because it was problematic. It's not so problematic anymore. But when I inspect my feed belt, I'm looking at this metal bar too. And what I'm looking for is I am looking for lines on the feed belt. And I don't know how well you can see them. This printer is a little bit older and has a few. You can see those lines in here. If it were me, I opened my lid once per month. I look down. I'm going to clean that. Now, my metal bar here is fine. I'm not worried about that at all. But my feed belt does have some lines, so I'm going to clean that. Rhodes, can you go to the main camera too? This is my denatured alcohol. So this is denatured alcohol. You're normally going to see it as denatured alcohol. There are a few places where you cannot get denatured alcohol, such as California. What you're going to want to do instead is get a high percent alcohol. So a rubbing alcohol that's over 90% is what you're looking for, or the denatured alcohol if you can find it. You're going to use denatured alcohol and you're going to use a lint-free cloth. So we have these little disposable lint-free cloths that we use. You may just get a lint-free cloth that you can use, but these work really well. I am just going to squirt my alcohol on this. I'm going to turn my printer off. And I am going to just wipe down everything that's visible. Now, when I am done and I have wiped everything down that's visible, and you can stay on the big camera, I'm going to open the back door of the printer, and there are two little gray rollers. You are going to press as hard as you can, typically with your thumb, and as you do that, the belt will roll. Now you can show the other hand. As the belt rolls, you move everything that you've cleaned.
Close the top lid and they'll be able to see your hands as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. So I'm pushing those gray rollers, and you will see the belt move. Once the section that's wet moves out of the way, do the next section, keep going. Again, your printer's turned off. When you are done, you're going to leave your printer off for 15 to 30 minutes so that belt can fully dry, and then you're going to turn that back on. But cleaning that belt is going to be important. It's also going to be important that you're inspecting the belt. So you want to look at the edges of the belt. Are they good? Are they intact? Is there any fraying? Is there any ripping? Now, that's not normal. That's not even normal wear and tear. Typically, it's more likely that there was a jam, the belt got damaged in the process of removing the jam. That's going to be a more likely scenario, but that is an immediate support ticket. Especially if your printer is in warranty, you're going to reach out if you have any fraying or anything with the belt. But if it is just dirty, that's something you can definitely handle on your own. Like I said, denatured alcohol and those lint-free cloths to clean that. Same thing with that metal bar that we showed. With that metal bar that runs across, you're just going to take your denatured alcohol on your lint-free cloth and wipe that down. We're going to talk about the wiper blade more in just a second, and you'll see why. But we'll talk about that, and that's going to be another part that your denatured alcohol comes in really handy for. Rhodes, before I move on to my capping station, do you have any questions?
No, we are good on questions right now.
Awesome.
Actually, a good comment from Lori just popped up. Coffee filters are lint-free, and they make an amazing tool to clean the feed belt.
They do, yep. Coffee filters, I love these. I don't know where we got them. I'll see if I can find out. But those work well as well. But yeah, coffee filter, that. All right. To look at the capping station. Now I know there are often times where our support team tells you to do a capping station clean or get to that capping station. And I know that that's something that is a little intimidating. There's only one part to me that's intimidating, and I'm going to show you how I handle that. So two things I'm going to do. First of all, if you take a screwdriver, if you take scissors and you put it in this hole, it is actually going to block the sensor, and my door open is going to go away. So you're going to see me hold this here. Now, here's Rhonda's tip. I have done this enough times to know that if I try to pull this cord out while I'm doing something else, it never works properly. So what I like to do is loosen it and be enough that it's still on, but that it's loose. Probably was already in place. There we go. All right, now I'm going to put this in. And what I am listening for is a click. That. You heard that click. What that means is that the print head is no longer capped and it has released. So now I can grab the head and move it across the printer, and I have full access to my capping station. Now, just to show you what you were seeing, and you can see it, which is lovely, this is my wiper blade. I have a dirty wiper blade. You see that magenta on my wiper blade? I'm going to want to wipe that down with that. This is where the alcohol comes in, and then we're going to stop talking about the alcohol. That's where the alcohol is going to come in. I'm going to wipe that down. This is my capping station. That was my capping station. You're going to see there is a piece with a sponge. There's a piece that I call it more of a sucking vacuum side. Both are parts of the capping station. Both are going to be very important. If you see that there's grime, dried ink, sitting on your capping station.
You're zooming your computer.
Oh, great. Are seeing anything dried on here, just a wet lint-free cloth, wipe it off. Get rid of that. Kind of push on a little bit on that sponge, clean that off. So if this looks slightly dirty, that's our maintenance part. Our maintenance part is that we want to use water and wipe anything off that may be sitting on top. Wiper blade is as far as I want you to take the denatured alcohol. Don't go any further with that. Don't you put simple green in here. Don't put anything else in here. Only water in the capping station. This alcohol, this water. So I'm going to wipe off anything in my maintenance. Now, let's talk about troubleshooting. So if you have done the head cleans, if you have done the head flushes, and you still have clogs or often error codes, we're going to tell you to do a capping station clean. Now, we've done the first step. We moved the head over. The head's out of the way. We're going to now expose the capping station. You're going to take hot water, not boiling water, not lukewarm water, hot water. And you are going to take a little dropper, pick up the water, and drop it into especially the sponge side. Both sides, but the sponge side especially. And then I'm going to take my head, I'm going to push it back over and let it sit there And I'm going to do that for about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to turn the printer back on, plug it back in, turn it back on, and I am going to run another nozzle check and see how that works. You can do a head clean too. It's not going to hurt you at this point to do a head clean on both sides just to make sure nothing's got wiggled around or there's no yucky stuff on the edges of the nozzle. It's a good technical term, yucky stuff. So we're going to go ahead and clean that, and then you should be good to go. Now, you may be asked to do a long soak. So doing exactly what we just did, but let it sit overnight. Just let it sit. If the water is pooling, if the water is sitting on top of that sponge, that waistline underneath the capping station is clogged. You can do this several times. It's not hurting anything. And your goal is to get it to a point where that hot water is soaking through the sponge very quickly. That is the ultimate goal of a capping station clean, is to get that moving. You generally, like I said, with maintenance, aren't doing a capping station clean. You're more doing a capping station inspection just to make sure it looks good. But I want you to do these steps probably once, definitely once per month. Probably, well, if possible, twice per month, but once per month to start with. But you are checking your belt, you're checking your capping station, you are checking that wiper blade. If I were to say, okay guys, we have to do maintenance on this printer needs a belt clean, this printer needs that wiper blade cleaned as well. And that's kind of where we are with that. So that's it. That is Rhonda's basic printer maintenance. Rhodes, do we have any questions or comments?
Lori says that the water should be uncomfortable to the touch, but not boiling.
Right, exactly. And someone said this exactly correct last week, and I cannot remember what they said. They may have said the temperature of water for hot chocolate, because you don't want it hot enough to burn yourself and not too cold either. That may have been the example that was used that I was like, oh, I'm going to remember that, and then I didn't. But yeah, just hot water, not boiling, not lukewarm, somewhere in between. Hopefully this has helped. Hopefully this has given you some tips to help keep your printer running. That's what all this week was about, was just getting your printer up and running and doing the best it possibly can. Next week, we're going to move into some inspirations. We have some great projects lined up for next week. So with that being said, thank you again for waiting out for me while I finished my meeting. It was an important one. Just to remind everyone, 2 weeks from now, the week of October 20th, there will be no workshops. And the reason there will be no workshops is I will be in Orlando, Florida for Printing United. If you're going to be at Printing United, come and see me. I am doing 3 demos per day, so basically 3 workshops every day of the show. So join us down there. With that being said, y'all have a great week. Bye-bye.